going on, guys? Styx here with the Token Minorities, bringing you the actual battle. And yes, this is the actual battle. I am sorry again about last week for week 4 of season 6 of the CPC, and we are up against my good buddy Will and his San Antonio Sparce. And before I get into the battle, just a reminder that if you guys like this video or found it helpful, please leave a like, drop a comment, click that subscribe button, it helps us out a ton. And let's do more cool stuff for you guys. And also, if you are new to the channel, here at TTM we are a collaborative channel. So there's not just the draft format content from myself that you see before you. We also have draft format content from Jolt and Crobat for the win, both of whom are excellent battlers and excellent, I guess, narrators, content creators, stuff like that. And then we also have TCG content as well from myself. So if any of that interests you, please feel free to subscribe. And also, we have a link to the TTM Discord that will be in the description as well. We have channels for not only draft format, but TCG and Smogon as well. So if that interests you, please feel free to check that out. But anyway, on to the battle. Like I said, we are up against Will. His link will be in the description. I encourage you to check him out too. There will be like 20 links in the description. Jeez. But anyway, he has brought a team this week of Zygarde, Mega Mawile, Manaphy, Serperior, Arcanine, and Aerodactyl. And what I'm noticing looking at his team is in the team builder. If you did not check that out, that will also be linked, so that'll be like the 4th thing linked, I think, maybe. But if you did not check out the team builder, you saw that I was saying that Will had 9 Mons. His roster was only 9 Mons, but each of those Mons had the potential to be brought, and you could make a realistic argument for why you should bring each Mon against me in this matchup. His team that he brought is completely indicative of that. So the Mons that he left at home for this week are Scolipede, Zoroark, and Uxie. And in my mocks, Uxie was brought in both of them. Zoroark was brought and was actually brought up as a potential huge threat to me because of my relative lack of solid dark resists. And then also Scolipede was brought just because that's his Z-Mon, and it's a very, very good and potentially very easy to sweep Mon if I let my checks to it get worn down. So the fact that he left those 3 at home when all 3 were brought in mocks is actually pretty nuts. And then Arcanine was a Mon that he brought that neither of my mocks brought. So I mean, that just shows you how well-rounded his team is. Even though there are only 9 Mons that he can potentially bring, just the fact that those 9 Mons are very powerful and very viable in any given week is something that's very strong and very difficult to prepare for, all things considered. But that being said, looking at his team, I do like the fact that he has absolutely no ghost resist. I mean, nothing even resists. He didn't even bring the Zoroark. So, I mean, it makes me kind of sad that I have my Gengar that I changed to Timid so that it would be able to outspeed the Zoroark from Modest. But in this case, I could have brought Modest just because he doesn't have the Zoroark, and it's not going to be, and it's obviously not going to be a Scarf Zoroark if he doesn't have it. So, makes me kind of sad, but you know what? I still stand by the decision to make it Timid. But looking at his team, I immediately want to get rocks up. That way I can start chipping down things like the Aerodactyl, the Mega Mawile, the Manaphy, put them in range of my attackers. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and lead with my Necrozma to get up rocks immediately as he leads with his Aerodactyl. Now, okay, I'm pausing immediately. I try to normally get a few turns in, but this was actually really, really interesting. So Aerodactyl can viably be a couple different sets against me. The one that I was most afraid of was a mid-game breaker set with like Stone Edge, Z-Fly, and then Earthquake, where nothing on my team straight up outsped it unless they had a Scarf, and I would have to try to find switch-ins to Aerodactyl somewhere on my team, just basically essentially sack and then try to revenge kill was my plan against a mid-game breaker Aerodactyl. But the fact that he led with it tells me that he's not a mid-game breaker, because a mid-game breaker by its name would be a Mon that you use in the mid-game to try to break. It's not something you'd lead with. So this is telling me that this is a lead Aerodactyl that can get up rocks, which, I mean, is equally viable against me. I'm not knocking it at all. That's a very good set against me. just because my defoggers are so pressured by his team that I want to be able to, or that he would rather get up rocks immediately to try to pressure me as much and as quickly as possible. So knowing that this is more than likely an early game or a lead rocker, I'm thinking that, okay, he sees my Necrozma, he sees that this is the only thing on my team that can carry rocks, so he is more than likely to taunt to prevent my rocks against him if that's what he values. So instead of allowing him to potentially get up rocks and a hit off on me, I'm just going to go straight for the Photon Geyser. If he goes for taunt, then I knock him out in 2 hits and all he does is get rocks up. But if he doesn't taunt, then I can get my rocks up later. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go ahead and go straight for the Photon Geyser as he goes for the Crunch. And that was very interesting as well. First of all, the fact that he was unnerved, I honestly didn't see that at first. I just saw something, I just saw an ability pop on Aerodactyl and was like, oh, okay, it's going to be pressure. It's going to stall out my Photon Geysers a little bit quicker. But then it didn't pop my berry with Crunch, and I was like, wait, hold up. Oh, unnerved. Got it. So that was kind of an interesting first turn. And the fact that he has Crunch over just going for a Stone Edge or a Taunt right there tells me that he probably doesn't have Taunt. Because what his moveset is going to be as a lead would be Stealth Rock, Stone Edge, and then he obviously has Crunch, so that means there's one move left. And I would think if he had Taunt, he would have gone for that immediately. But he actually just went for Crunch. And so now, seeing that he has Crunch, I'm thinking, okay, he probably doesn't have Taunt or didn't have room for Taunt. So I'm just going to go ahead and try to get up my rocks, as that's exactly what he does too. We trade rocks right here, both get him up. I think they hurt him a little bit more than me. And now, seeing whatever move he wants to go for, I'm just going to Moonlight back up, get up near full for the Aerodactyl, as he's just going to go for a Crunch once again. And now I am just going to take that thing out with a Photon Geyser. Just wanted to get back up to a good range of health. I mean, 72 is very, very acceptable for this point in the battle. And also, I didn't want to mess around with the high crit ratio of, or high crit rate, sorry, not high crit ratio. I guess it really is a ratio as well if you look at it overall. But I didn't want to mess around with the potential of crit from Stone Edge or the defense drops from Crunch. So instead of just getting back to full, I decided to take that thing out with another Photon Geyser, and down goes Aerodactyl with my Necrozma at still pretty good amount of health. He goes into his Superior, and the one thing that I cannot let the Superior do is set up too much or set up without taking damage. So I'm just going to stay in. I'm going to sack my Necrozma at this point, because while I kind of need it for Mawile, the Mon exchange is in my favor right now. I took the first knockout, so if we just go knockout for knockout at this point, I will end up winning the game just because I took the first knockout, and I will end up with 1 Mon remaining at the end of the day. So I'm just going to try to prevent this Superior from setting up a sub, as that was something that I saw in my mock battles. So I'm just going to stay in, go for the Heat Wave, wear down this Superior, see if I can get it in range of rocks or just in range of U-turn or something like that, to where I can get momentum off of it. And yeah, that's just what I'm going to do, break the sub, and then he actually misses the Leaf Storm. Now that sucks, because as you'll see on the next turn, I mean, I am able to get a Heat Wave off, but as you'll see on the next turn, 2 Leaf Storms would have definitely taken me out, as Necrozma is able to claim its second kill of the game with a Photon Geyser on the Superior. But at that point in the game, Necrozma would have gone down, just hands down, no questions asked. What I would have done is just gone straight into my Tapu Koko and knocked that thing out with U-turn, and then gone into probably Salamence, all things considered. Salamence or Gengar, probably Salamence, just because that threatens everything on his team, and I would have been able to just respond to that accordingly. Like, say, if he went into Arcanine or Mawile or something like that, I would have had to respond accordingly. Probably just get an Earthquake off on Mawile and then Volt Switch with my Tapu Koko, that type of thing. So yeah, it did suck early game, and also sucked for like mentally just seeing a Leaf Storm miss and then not being able to take out something that is proving to be a pretty big annoyance for you is something that cannot be underestimated. But the fact remains, I was able to take out both the Superior and the Aerodactyl with my Necrozma, and now my Necrozma is still at 38%, so I'm in a very good spot in this game. He goes into his Mawile, and like I said in the In the team builder, Necrozma is here specifically for Mawile. Just want to get that thing in range of a Volt Switch. I'm going to go for the Heat Wave, as he will be able to knock me out with a Play Rough. And honestly, Necrozma did its job. It got rid of 2 Mons, and it got Mawile in range of Volt Switch, which is exactly what I'm going to do. Going to go straight into my Tapu Koko, Volt Switch out. If he wants to go into Zygarde, I do have the U-turn for that thing. And he does pull the risky switch into Zygarde, but I mean, it worked for him, so good on him. And now that Zygarde's in, I just want to kind of scout out, see what it wants to do, and I am going to go for the U-turn as the Arcanine comes in. Seeing that it's Intimidate, and seeing that U-turn damage did very, very little, I'm just going to go into my Salamence and try to set up. Hopefully he goes for the Will-O-Wisp, but he does just go into his Manaphy as I go for the substitute on the switch, knowing that I could probably take a Will-O-Wisp, or that I could take a Will-O-Wisp with the sub, and Arcanine more than likely would not be able to break my sub. Now at this point, I saw that there is... Actually, you'll see that there's no lefties on Manaphy. Sorry, I was just trying to get to the end of the turn to show you that, but I mean, spoilers, I do go for my Z move right here. I calced, and an offensive Manaphy, depending on investment, is more than likely in range of a Z Outrage after Stealth Rock. And considering I didn't see leftovers, I was thinking, okay, this is Wakanberry. This is going to be Wakanberry, because an offensive setup Manaphy would definitely run Wakan against me so that it can't just easily be revenge killed by Tapu Koko. So seeing the Wakan, seeing the no lefties, or not seeing the Wakan, but seeing the no lefties indicating that it's Wakan. If it's not Wakan, I'll just be shocked. But seeing that, I'm thinking, okay, this is definitely a setup Manaphy. This is definitely a Tail Glow Manaphy, not a Calm Mind, just because Wakan would be a one-time use, and in Calm Mind you want more opportunities to set up and longer to set up. So I'm thinking that this is offensive. I could have Dragon Danced up and then gone for the Z Outrage to knock out the Manaphy, but I didn't really want to play around with Sucker Punch shenanigans from Mawile, that type of thing. I thought that the odds are in my favor just to go ahead, one-shot this Manaphy with a Z Outrage, and then with a Moxie Boost and a sub-up, I would have been able to pretty well sweep through his team. Outrage onto Zygarde would have knocked it out, and then Mawile could have come in and been immune to the Outrage, but at that point I would have been able to not be locked into Outrage anymore and gone for Earthquake to clean that up, as well as Arcanine. So if I knocked out this Manaphy right here, it was just GG. Like, no questions asked, it was just GG, and that's ultimately what I decided to go for, as opposed to trying to set up and then knock out the Manaphy. But as you will see, does not quite knock it out, and it only does 75%. That wasn't even a roll. This is a more bulky Manaphy, but I mean, I still stand by my play. I'm okay with it, because I'm going to be able to get the knockout on Manaphy, and I'm going to force a response by him. But this was just kind of a, darn it, should have gone for the Dragon Dance. That way I can outspeed, or that way I can Oko anything very, very easily against his team, even through Intimidate, as he's going to be able to break my sub with Ice Beam, and then at this point I'm just going to knock it out with an Earthquake, get a Moxie Boost, and see what he wants to do. If he wants to go into Mawile, then we'll have to play like Sucker Punch Mind Games more than likely. But he does go into his Zygarde, and I'm like, okay, he's making the play. He's just going to force me to go for Outrage. I'll be able to knock out the Zygarde. He goes into Mawile, and then he can just be immune. He can set up a sub, whatever he wants to do. I'm like, you know what? I'm willing to make that trade. I'm willing to lose my Salamence to get rid of Zygarde and Manaphy. But as you can see, he ends up being Scarfed Zygarde. Now, this threw me way off, because I thought that Zygarde could not afford to be locked into a move in this matchup against me, just because I do have the Buzzwole, and the Buzzwole demolishes Zygarde to where it's either having to, if it is a choice Zygarde, it has to lock itself into a move. It locks itself into HP Flying to try to take on the Buzzwole. I abuse that. If he wants to lock himself into 1,000 Arrows, then Buzzwole chews that hit for days. So really was not expecting Scarf Zygarde at all, so way to catch me off guard. Well, that was pretty nuts. But now that I do see that it is Scarfed, what this does mean is I get a free switch into my Buzzwole. I can fire off an Earthquake. If Zygarde wants to stay in, it'll be doing like 10% to me, and I can catch something on the switch. He goes into his Arcanine, and because I am a defensive Buzzwole, I do not quite get the KO through Intimidate, and now that this Arcanine is in, it's probably going to heal up or go for the Wisp. I'm just going to go into my Mega Pidgeot to scout out what type of Arcanine this is, because I mean, that damage revealed that he wasn't fully physically defensive. In fact, he wasn't very physically defensive. So I'm wondering if this is just like Intimidate offensive or what it could be. So he goes for the Morning Sun as I bring my Pidgeot in, and I am just going to scout out damage on this Arcanine right here with a Hurricane, and that reveals to be a Spadef Arcanine as he goes for a Flamethrower. And now that I see how much damage Flamethrower is doing, maybe he's just going to try to pick me off with Extreme Speed, counting on rolls. I'm going to go straight for a Roost. If he goes for another Flamethrower, then eventually I'll just knock him out with a Hurricane, and that will be that. But all things considered, I do think that Arcanine at a low health, I mean, Arcanine is still, even after one turn of leftovers, will still be, or still should be in range of another Hurricane from my Mega Pidge, so that's kind of what I'm counting on right now. Just going to go ahead and Roost up as he pulls the switch into his Mega Mawile. I'm assuming he calced that he would be able to live a Hurricane at that range. And now that I know I can even live a Sucker Punch, I'm just going to go straight for the Heat Wave, knock out this Mega Mawile, and that thing goes down. So Mega Pidge claimed the kill on Mega Mawile, but Necrozma put in the work. He's going to go into a Zygarde right here, and I kind of want to preserve my Mega Pidge in case I need to Hurricane the Arcanine later, so I'm just going to go straight into my Buzzwole, take the 1,000 arrows, that does 12%, and now I'm just going to start firing off Earthquakes, because like I said before, if he continually goes for 1,000 arrows, that's not going to do enough to knock out my Buzzwole before I knock him out with Earthquake, and then if he wants to go into Arcanine, that thing will switch in and go down to an Earthquake, as he does try to pull the switch in Arcanine right there. And now that my Buzzwole is in, I am at +1 defense. I have the Koba Berry if he wants to lock himself into HP Flying. I'm just going to stay in, go for the Ice Punches. That will be a 2-hit KO. And ladies and gentlemen, that 1,000 arrows did 6. That 1,000 arrows did 6%. Buzzwole is stupidly bulky, as it will be able to take down the Zygarde with an Ice Punch to win the game 4-0 for us. So that was, honestly, the score did not indicate how close of a game that was, just because, I mean, well, first of all, that Zygarde would have been easily able to knock out my Mega Pidgeot. Tapu Koko would have lived, but I didn't think I'd be able to OHKO it in return. And then Gengar would not have been able to OHKO the Zygarde. So if I did not have Buzzwole, this game would have been a lot closer and really would have come down to just my Tapu Koko or my Gengar having to just chip it down. Like, I'd have to sack one of them to take out the Zygarde and then use the other to finish up the game. So it was a 4-0, but it was a much closer 4-0 than a normal 4-0 would indicate. So yeah, Buzzwole coming through clutch in this game, as well as Necrozma. So the 79 base speeds really carried me in this game. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And this is Styx signing out. Why not? See you guys.